Welcome to Program Review. The purpose of Program Review is to ensure that all programs are aligned with the goals in the college's educational master plan. In a program review, programs analyze data on key metrics, develop 5-year objectives, and request resources needed to meet those objectives. Then, in subsequent years, they evaluate annual progress made towards their 5-year objectives. Programs complete a comprehensive review once every 5 years, in which they analyze data and set objectives. In each intervening year, they complete a mini-review in which they assess progress made towards those objectives. Comprehensive reviews are staggered so that in each year, some programs are completing a comprehensive review while others are completing a mini-review. The first step is to figure out whether you're completing a comprehensive review or not. You can find the list of programs that are completing a comprehensive review on the Program Review webpage for that year. To find the Program Review webpage, go to the Ventura College homepage, or venturacollege.edu, then hover over the About tab, and click on Institutional Effectiveness, Data, and Statistics. Then you'll scroll down until you see the Program Review link. The other option is just search for Program Review in the search bar. So we'll just type in Program Review, and then click through the options until you find the one that looks like this. Once you're on this page, you're going to scroll down until you find the current year. I'm making this video in 2023, so I'm going to select the 2023-2024 Program Review page. Then once you're on this page, you'll scroll down until you find a list of programs that are completing a comprehensive review in the current year. If your program is on this list, that means you're completing a comprehensive review this year. If your program is not on this list, that means you're completing a mini review this year. All programs will complete either a comprehensive review or a mini review every year. Next, you'll scroll down a little bit further and click on the link to log into the online program review page. I'm going to right-click the link and open it in a new tab just for the purposes of this video, but feel free to just click on it however you'd like. That will bring you to the Nuventive login page where you can achieve, improve, and adapt. Next, you'll click the sign in link at the top right corner of the page. If your VCCD email address shows up in this list here, then just click on that. If not, then you'll type in your full VCCD email address, including the @vccd.edu. Click Next. And from there, it'll take you to our portal page to log in. This will bring you to the Program Review homepage. This page will display your current program review objectives and your resource requests. If this is your first time logging into the system this year, then it's going to display your objectives and resource requests from last year's program review. I'm going to use a chemistry program as an example here because they did a very nice job on their program review. If you're completing a mini review this year, the only things that you need to actually work on updating are your objectives and your resource requests. In order to do that, the first step is probably to take a look at the data and see how it changed over the past year. To do that, you'll click on the 3 lines here, go to Program Review and Planning, and then click on Program Review Data and Analysis. That'll bring up this page here, which includes a space for programs who are completing a comprehensive review to click on the green plus and answer a bunch of questions about the data. However, if you're completing a mini review, you don't need to worry about doing any of that. One thing I would suggest doing when you get to this page, though, is clicking this button here to split the page between the questions over here that you're not going to have to worry about and the data dashboards over here. Or if you're only interested in the data dashboards, you can go to this one and you can actually view all of them in a much easier format. You can then click on any one of these dashboards to see how the data has changed from last year's program review to this year's program review. For this video, we're going to be using institutional effectiveness as an example, which does not have as many data dashboards as the instructional or student service programs have. So we'll click on our data dashboard here, take a look at the data, And then when we're ready, after we've had a chance to review it, we'll click on the 3 lines over here and then click on Program Objectives and Resource Requests, which is under the Program Review and Planning section. Give it a couple seconds, and once the page loads, you'll see a list of the objectives that you entered from your last comprehensive program review. So in a mini review, all you have to do is go in and provide updates on the progress that you've made towards these objectives and any challenges that you've encountered along the way. To do that, you can either double click on the objective here, or you can click on the 3 dots and select Open. So let's say that this is my comprehensive objective, my 3-year objective that I set in my last comprehensive review, which is to improve survey scores related to data access and understanding. I wouldn't necessarily change any of this information here. The only thing I may change is I could update which of the educational master plan goals this objective aligns with, or which of the student equity plan goals this objective aligns with, if this information hasn't already been entered. To do that, just click the drop-down menu here, and then you can select as many of the goals as you think apply to your objective. Next, you'll scroll down, you'll skip this information here, you don't need to update any of this, and if you're in the 2nd year of your comprehensive review, you'll enter any progress that you made towards this objective in the previous year, and then you'll also enter any challenges you encountered in progressing towards this objective. If you're completing a mini review and you're in the 2nd year, which means that these boxes would be blank, these would be the only information that you need to enter in this objective screen. The only issue is that I'm not able to actually see the data on this screen at the same time as I'm updating the objectives. So the easiest way to see the data and kind of toggle between the data and the box where I'm entering progress I've made towards the data, I can go to this 3 lines here and then hover over Program Review Data and Analysis. Instead of clicking, I'm going to right click and go to Open Link in New Tab, and then it'll open another tab here where I can actually toggle between the data and I can toggle between the objectives themselves to see if I actually made any progress towards those objectives. So we'll give this a second to load. It's going to load my home screen. So to get to my data, I'm going to go to the 3 lines, Program Review and Planning, and then Program Review Data and Analysis. Once I'm here, I'm going to click on my data here on this right tab. It'll open up, and then we can see the scores that I got, survey scores related to access, data being easy to access, and data being easy to understand. And then basically I can just kind of toggle back and forth between these 2 tabs in order to get the information I need to describe the progress I made towards this objective. So again, my goal, improve employee survey scores related to data access and data understanding. So let's see if I actually did that. So data is easy to access. Last year, my score was 3.9 out of 5. This year it's 3.8 out of 5, so it's basically the same. Data is easy to understand. Last year, people rated it a 4 out of 5. This year it's a 3.9 out of 5, so it's basically the same. So we would say in the progress that we made towards this objective, there's not really any difference. Then we would talk about any challenges we encountered in progressing toward this objective. Okay, so there's my progress made, my challenges I faced, and at that point I'm just going to save here, and then we can see that our objective was successfully updated. The next thing to do is to update any resource requests that you have associated with that objective. So we're going to go back into the objective here, and we're going to click on the Resource Requests tab here. Before you do any update, the first thing I would strongly recommend doing is clicking on this Start Here PDF on the right side of the screen. Each year we make minor changes to the program review resource request process, and this Start Here document has the most up-to-date information on different types of resource requests that can and cannot be made through program review. It also includes information on the number of requests that each program can put through each year, so please take a look at this PDF before moving on. After reading through these 2 documents, we'll go back to our list of resource requests over here. It might be easier to view everything by changing the screen proportion to this setting here, so you've got most of the resource requests on the left side of the screen and just kind of a small menu of the PDF information over here. One important thing to pay attention to is that the default for this page is to display all resource requests your program has ever made, even if they're no longer active. Inactive requests are things that you requested years ago and were either funded, or they're things that your program no longer needs. You only really need to worry about updating your active requests. So to limit this list to only display your active requests, you'll go to this Resource Request Status dropdown and select Active. One important field to pay attention to on each resource request is this Office Use Only field. Program Review resource requests from previous years that have been approved for funding will have a message here that says that they've been approved for funding. If the request was not approved for funding, then this area will be blank. In either case, you'll need to update the request for this year. To do that, you can either double-click on the request here, or you can click on the three dots and click Open. Then you'll just want to run through and update each of these fields. If you want to keep this as an active request, which means that this is something that you want to request again this year, you're going to leave the resource request status as active. If, however, it was approved for funding, or if you no longer want to request this resource again this year, then you'll change the status to inactive. If you inactivate the request, you're done with this screen and you don't need to worry about updating anything else below. If, however, you want to keep this as an active request and request it again this year, then you'll keep this resource request status as active, and then you'll fill out or update the rest of the fields below. First, you'll just change the request year to the most recent year, which in this case is 23-24. The resource request title is the one thing on this page that you won't change. So this resource request title is a unique code that allows us to track resource requests across years and across different programs. So if you already have a value in this resource request title field, don't change it at all. Next, you'll want to enter a description of the request you're making. This should just be a sentence or two about the request, about what the request actually is. You won't actually enter your justification about why you need the request here. That information you'll enter a little bit later. But for this field, again, just a brief description of what the actual request is. If you're requesting a staff position, please make sure to enter the exact title of the position that you're requesting in this description field, which you can find in this VCCD Job Descriptions tab here on the right. Click the icon, and then the district's job description webpage will open up. You'll want to scroll through and find the name of the position that you're looking for. Closing this page can sometimes be a little bit tricky because there should be a little X to close it that's up here at the top of the screen, but if your window is sized too small, this might get stuck and you might not be able to actually see the X. If that's the case, you can kind of hover over it if you can get a little tiny bit and click close. Otherwise, you can just change the proportion here and it'll close it out. Next, you'll enter the estimated cost for the request, and then you'll note whether or not you have categorical funds available to fund this request. If you do have categorical funds available to fund the request, please enter the FOAP in this field here. Next, you'll select the type of resource that you're requesting. In this case, this is a staff position that I'm requesting. And then you can also update to note if this is something that you've requested in previous years, and you can mark as many of these previous years as you need to. Then we're going to give the request a priority level. This particular request is the #1 priority for my program, meaning it's the most important request for my program. If this were the second highest priority request for my program, I'd select 2 from the list here. If it was the third highest request, I would select 3, and so on. One note that you can only use each priority level once. So you can only have one priority 1 request. You can only have one priority 2 request, and so on. And I'll show you how to check this at the end of the video when we're making our last checks before we submit our program review. Next, you'll enter the primary contact for the resource request, which would be me in this case. Then we'll scroll down here to the section where you'll actually provide your justification for why you need your request. If this is a faculty, staff, or administrator request, this is the field where you would enter that information. If it's an equipment, facilities, or technology request, you'll leave this field blank and you'll scroll down to the equipment, technology, and facilities section. A couple of additional notes if you're requesting equipment, facilities, or technology. You'll need to discuss your request with the facilities director or the IT director prior to putting it into the program review system. Specifically, if you're requesting facilities or equipment, you'll need to discuss your request with the facilities director. If you're requesting technology, you'll need to discuss your request with the IT director. After you discuss it with them, they'll give you an updated cost estimate, which you can enter here. They'll also give you a Pirates code, which verifies that you talked to them prior to entering your request into the program review system. Facilities, equipment, and technology requests that do not have a valid Pirates code will not be considered for funding. Also, you'll need to get a new Pirates code each year, even if you requested the exact same thing last year and you received a Pirates code last year. This is because costs may change from year to year, and it's important for the college to have an accurate understanding of how much each request will cost to fulfill. You'll also notice that if you're requesting equipment, facilities, or technology, there's some additional questions that need to be answered. These questions are derived directly from the rubrics that are used by the various committees on campus to prioritize and rank the requests. If you want to see the actual rubrics that the committees are using to rank these requests, they're over here on the right side of the screen. You just have to scroll down a bit here. So if I were requesting equipment, for example, I could click on this equipment rubric here to see some of the information that the Budget Resource Committee is looking for as they're ranking and reviewing the requests. If you scroll down, you can also see the actual rubric that they're using to rank each request. I strongly recommend that you take a look at these documents prior to entering your request here. And again, I would also strongly recommend that you click on the executive team planning parameters so that in addition to seeing what the committees are looking for, you can also see the factors that the executive team is looking for. Once we're done updating this request, we're going to save it. Assessment method successfully updated. Then we'll close. And that'll bring us back to the list of resource requests. Then we'll just work through the rest of the resource requests in the same way. If you want to add an additional resource request that isn't already in the list, you'll click the green plus button here, and then we'll just fill out all of this information in the same way that we just described. Once you've updated the resource request for this objective, then go back to the list of objectives here by clicking objective and then close. And then do the same thing for each of the other resource requests for each of your other objectives. One last thing to note about your objectives is that beginning in 2022-2023, comprehensive program reviews were reviewed by both the College Planning Committee and the VC executive team. The executive team also provided each program with a set of commendations, or things they're doing well, and they provided them with a set of recommendations for improvement. If you'd like to view these commendations and recommendations, you can go to the Program Review webpage for the year that you completed your last comprehensive program review. So if we go to 22-23, which was the first year that this feedback was provided, we'll click on the Comprehensive Program Reviews tab here, and then we can see the data, the program review, the feedback from the College Planning Committee, and the executive team's feedback, which includes their commendations and recommendations. So these recommendations have also been built into the online program review system. I'm going to go back to the online program review system and use agriculture as a quick example because they are first alphabetically. So when I go to their program objectives and resource requests, give it a second to load, you'll see the objectives that the agriculture program set in their last comprehensive program review, and then at the bottom of the page you'll see the executive team's recommendations. The exec team recommendations can be distinguished from your own program's objectives because they all start with the word exec team and then a number for the number of the recommendation. So in addition to providing updates on the progress made towards your own objectives, you'll need to click through each one of these exec team recommendations and provide updates on progress that you've made towards those recommendations as well. You can also request any resources to meet these recommendations just as you can for your own objectives. Once you've gone through and provided updates on the progress made towards your objectives, the exec team recommendations, and you've updated all your resource requests, the last step is to give everything one last check. The easiest way to do that is to click on the three lines here and click on Home. Give it a second to load, and then it'll show all of your active objectives and all of your resource requests. A couple things to take a look at here is to make sure that your priority levels are only used once for each for each resource request, so you don't have two resource requests, for example, that have priority 1. Once everything looks good, there's no formal submit button to click. Instead, just send your supervisor, meaning your dean or your vice president, an email to let them know that the program review is ready for them to take a look at. One important thing to remember about this page is that this page is not updated in real time, however. It's only updated once every night at 1 a.m. So if you entered a bunch of objectives and resource requests on one day, you're not going to see updated tables here until the next day after 1 a.m. Once you're done, if you'd like to download your program review, you can export it as a Word document by going to the three lines here at the top left and then clicking on Reports. Give it a couple minutes, and then you'll see a Word document pop up here with all the information that you entered. that you can download by clicking on the download button here, or you can print here. And that's basically all there is to it. If you have any questions at all about any of this, please feel free to call or email us. You can find our contact information back on the program review page here. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page, click on the Contact Us link, and then you'll see our phone numbers and email addresses. Thank you, and have a great program review.